Hello, everyone. Welcome to our little talk here on Thursday night this week instead of Wednesday night. Inside Draft. We'll start this up again this year. We did it at the tail end of last year, and this is the show where the concept for it was we were doing a lot of interviews of our different drivers that we would insert in the 2-minute documentaries on MAV TV. And ever since COVID started, we started this call-in, but the fans didn't get to see it, or our friends didn't get to watch it. So what we were able to do was at the end of last year, we started this where you guys could watch, and when we're interviewing and doing these types of interviews, and then that kind of evolved a little bit into the idea of just doing a weekly show, weekly update. So before we get started here, I want to get a couple things ready to go. I'm in the studio by myself, as I usually am for these shows. So as we're heading down the list here, before I get rolling too far, I want to start with saying hi to a few folks while people are joining here. A couple of comments. I'm on Facebook. We're on Facebook, and we're also on our Short Track TV, reading a comment, watching some other stuff there. Something funny there. Dan Myrick, he's checked in. Brian Lee, our announcer. Dan Myrick says, hey, Kenny, Nick Thompson backed up his second place at Madera, the second place at Merced. Also ran the fastest lap on dirt that night. Our guest is going to join us. It's actually kind of unique, Dan, our guest, and appropriate that you're here, one of the first ones in, because our guest tonight knows a lot about mini stocks. And we started out with the concept of the show, really started with our MAV TV interviews. Now what we're going to do is each week I'll have someone different on the show. So it'll certainly be different personalities from our MAV TV show as we're filming those segments for MAV TV, those interviews to do the driver documentary profiles, behind the wheel profiles. We'll also have different staff members from the Madera Speedway that are on the show probably every other week, every third week, crew chiefs, mechanics, and then we'll feature different drivers from different divisions. And that's we decided to start tonight with a mini stock driver. So kind of works out well. Dan McGee, hello from Reno. Kenny Dan McGee. Or Photo Man 4. You might see a question of the day up on the screen on Facebook. We don't have it over here, but let's see. Question of the day is, do you like the new Cup car or not? So we're doing a survey on that question of the day on the Cup cars, and we'll get to it at the end, see what the survey results are. I'm just kind of curious if people like the new Cup car or if they don't like the new Cup car. So let's jump back over here and get something before we get rolling with the show. We're going to do, as we always do, we do updates. We do a look back at our races, previews of what's coming up this weekend. So we'll certainly talk about that a little bit. But before we do that, let me hit a button here. I want to get this show recorded. We're also testing some settings that we use on our TV show. So first thing I want to do is talk about our sponsors and how much we appreciate our sponsors. So we'll start with 5150. I want to say thank you to them. Let's pull that banner down so we can see the entire area. 5150 is the original and the only sponsor of the 5150 Junior Late Model Series. Junior Late Model Series, where a lot of the new talent heading up into the trucks and ARCA, it comes and it all starts there at Madera in that 5150 Junior Late Model Series. They also are big supporters of the West Coast Stock Car Hall of Fame. They've got, we made a post here on our Facebook, or on the Facebook side. We're on both sides here, Facebook and our Short Track TV, but they do an award for the Philanthropist of the Year, 5150, and it's the Carlos Vieira Foundation. Let me see if I've got, I think Matt put some, yep, Matt sure did. Let's jump over here. Carlos Vieira Foundation. They help families, local communities, Just big supporters. Carlos is really big with that foundation. So give 5150 some support. Make an order today. Mission Foods, another big supporter of the Madera Speedway that allow us to do what we're doing on television. And then another company, the original Pro Late Model Series sponsor, I'm talking over a decade ago, Lunker Daddy Fishing Lures. So thank you very much to all of our sponsors. Short track racing cannot operate, racing in general cannot operate without sponsors, and we are very, very fortunate, very blessed to have some very dedicated folks. All right, jump back over here. Let's say hi to some people on Short Track TV while we're letting you guys populate and come in here. Brittany, hello. Brittany says, all right, so on Short Track TV, she'll jump in. She likes the new Cup cars. On the other side over here, let's go to moving something over here. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Jenny. Where can we find sponsor information? Be a little more clear, Jenny, as far as what type of sponsor information. Sponsors on the cars, sponsors, our sponsors that help the Speedway. You can find that at racemadera.com. Here we go, R.C. Dyer. I like the new car. Other than bugs, need to get worked out. Okay. We'll come back to this at the end of the show. NASCAR plans, road racing, the schedule. They sure look like road racing cars. I like road racing, and I like the fact they kind of look like late models. I would certainly change some things where they get stuck with flat tires, and the single lug thing kind of seems to be a hot topic. So I think I would work on a few of those things. So Jenny, sponsors for both the cars and track. Track sponsors you'll find all over racemadera.com, any of our shows, certainly if you're watching MAV TV, billboards around the racetrack, track sponsorship. You'll also find a lot of information in our live shows. You'll find a lot of information. There's a lot of TV commercials, different things out that we push for all of our sponsors. As far as the race cars, you'll find that on our TV show. Stephen Blakesley and the guys do a good job plugging their sponsors. So that's, anytime we're talking about them, pretty much you'll hear about their sponsors. Kim, hello from the East Coast. Hello, Kim. Okay, so let's get on moving with the show here. Dan Myrick, Dino Jets getting built. Ship out of Minnesota. I don't know how you could afford to ship anything from Minnesota these days, Dan. Huh? We can't wait to get that dyno here. Dan's working on a portable dyno that I want to keep real busy in our program at the Madera Speedway. So it'll be interesting when Dan gets his dyno out here. So we can't wait to see that. So let's jump. Let's do a little bit of background. March the 1st was our very first race of this season. And we'll pull that one down, hop over here. And the very first 5150 Junior Late Model season event, it's a 9-race championship on MAV TV. Brody Moore picked up the win. Therefore, there's a combination. They get points for the win, halfway bonus points, qualifying points. So you can see where Brody Moore is at. Brody Moore is the point leader. Casey Klein is second. Robbie Keneally's third. Lane Anderson fourth. Joey Keneally 5th, Jeffrey Erickson 6th, Kenna Mitchell 7th, Haley Lyles 8th, and Ethan Nascimento was 9th. Monty Tipton, a new driver, was 10th. Vito, he is 11th. Joaquin is 12th. And then we have Caden Cordova and Rebecca Doobie. We'll talk a little bit more. That was the finish order, and pretty much the finish order. Points shuffle a little bit because there's some bonus points in there. But we'll talk a little bit more about looking forward with our guest that's on here. We were chatting about this a little bit earlier on who we felt were kind of the favorites who are positioned to do really well in the championships this year. Let's jump over here. Same night, the Lunker Daddy Pro Late Model Series. The win was picked up by Matt Erickson, and here's the points now. Matt Erickson, Bradley Erickson, Kyle Keller, Jaden Walbridge. Keller and Walbridge was our 2021 champion, positioned very well. Kyle Keller picked up the 10,000 to win short track shootout on the last points race of last year, so he's really positioned well. Carlos Vieira's 5th, Jacob Smith 6th, graduate from the juniors coming up. Sheldon Cooper 7th, Ethan Nascimento is 8th. 9th is Garland Tyler, then Colby Potts, Barrett Polhemus, Pete Soto, Ryan Reynolds, Brian Collins, Brody Armtrout, and let's keep on going here. I'll jump over and add another list to it. Then we have Jason Aguirre, Rick Thompson, Eric Nascimento, Sean Reynolds, Tyler Herzog, Mike Hensley, Olivia Mankey, Glenn Cook, Howard Holden, Kersey Young, and Jay Jolson, rounding out the top 26. That really shuffled around. It really doesn't reflect on how well the cars race, simply because that wild white flag accident that we had on the very last lap that fans will get to see on MAV TV. And then just this past weekend, we started with the Madera late models. Jason Aguirre is the point leader there, followed by Daryl Herzog. We'll talk a little bit forecasting who's going to fight for the championship there. Daryl Herzog, very, very impressive in his very first start in a late model at Madera. Then Ryan Reynolds, Olivia Mankey, very impressive. Cabe McClenny, Rick Thompson, Alexander Mead. Really nice to see Alexander back in a race car. I think they enjoyed themselves. Eloy Bazan, Cameron Caraway. Our guest and I will chat a little bit about him. Runs CMC Racing. That's a future star. Trevor Slunt and Bobby Hurst. So really an interesting start there last weekend. And then in the Super Stocks, a lot of energy is going into the Super Stocks right now. Manny Gonzalez picked up the win, but it was really something else. Very competitive. Donnie Large Jr. second. Donnie was one of the quickest drivers into last year. Tyler Holden third. Steve Schermerhorn, that led the early part of the race, came back in fourth in points. And Haley Bugg and her and Steve got together down in turn 1. They were definitely up at the front fighting for the win up to that point. Rich Childress, that was 6th, he led the early part of the race, very impressive, and then Ivan Scorser. So that will check off our points and a little bit of a look back at where we started this year. And then right now where we're at is this weekend, Saturday, April 2nd, round number 2 of the 5150 Junior Late Model Series, round number 2 of the Lunker Daddy Pro Late Model Series. That's a 9-race championship. If you're anywhere in the area, certainly come out. We've actually cut ticket prices in most categories by a couple of dollars. So adult tickets are $20 for this big TV show. Military and seniors are $15. Youth under 13 are $10. And kids under 6 are free. So if you're anywhere in the area, please make it out to the Madera Speedway and enjoy what we have to offer. It's 80 laps of action in the pro late models, 70 laps in the juniors, plus we have the INX Bandoleros as a division that runs in between them, the future stars there. So a lot of new drivers in the 5150 Junior Late Model Series. We'll go over the list. I've got the entries here for the weekend, so we'll go over both lists for both divisions, and then we'll bring our guest in that's got a little bit of a perspective. Like I said, I already spilled the beans a little bit. We'll mix this up a little bit. We will have different guests throughout this show. This year we'll do it once a week, and sometimes, like I said, we'll have crew chiefs, mechanics, car owners, sponsors, even other guests outside, perhaps Ron Hornaday type guests, people like that have a little different perspective on the sport. That we'll bring in and just interesting. And then we'll have race car drivers. We'll film segments for our MAV TV mini documentaries right here on Inside Draft, and just try and stay connected with our fans. Normally we will do this on Wednesday nights. We had a couple of friends that were doing shows last night. We were pretty busy, so we postponed until tonight, which we kick off our event tomorrow night. So who knows, maybe Thursday night will work a little bit better. But we'll see. Right now we're scheduled for Wednesday nights of each week. So let me spill the beans on who's with us tonight, and let me make sure he's called in. Let's see if they've got him in the green room over there. So our guest tonight, let me pick Matt. That's our main editor. He's our lead editor, actually switches on the TV show. Matt's been with us for a couple of years on the TV show, full-time editor, full-time production to help our teams get as much recognition as possible. Matt has been just amazing to work with. And so what happens on this show, he prepares all the elements, all the parts and pieces, and then I do it in the evening, and so he doesn't have to stay here and switch. I do it by myself and kind of make a little show and a lot of fun. So let's, before we bring this, I already spilled the beans a little bit on, it's a mini stock driver that's our guest tonight. We thought that would be appropriate with a lot of the communication about mini stocks and Dan Myrick bringing a whole group up and how much effort's being put in. Dan sponsoring in a major way, helping the mini stocks out. So we will we'll bring someone on that's very knowledgeable about mini stocks here in just a second. But before I do that, I want to hit, let's see, Rod Carsey's with us. Life's still good in the Midwest. Oh, Rod, it's a good thing this isn't a political show, huh? We could really have some fun with gardening, roundup, taxes, fuel, what else, So maybe we'll hit that one down the road. All right, so our guest tonight is kind of crossing or checking off two boxes, actually. Our guest tonight is a mini stock driver, but he's also an employee, a volunteer, a do-everything person at the Speedway, and we're going to have a lot of our staff members on the show as well. So what we want to do with anyone that we have on the show is really get to know them. So we'll do a deep dive on kind of, how they fell in love with racing and why they help so much and what they do. So the gentleman that's on tonight is John Williams. John's last year's mini stock champion. He's quite the story, and we're going to expand on every nook and cranny of John's story that we can extract tonight from him. And before we bring John on, he's over in the green room right now that we've got Matt set up for him. We've got him staged in there. Let's see what else Matt put in here. He's got a little video, and this is from the awards banquet last year. So let me play this, and then I'll be right back with you.
But up front, Rick Lee, one of the workers from Madera, he's doing a good job.
Yeah, I just started driving this. It's a lot of fun. I have a hobby stock, but I have more fun in this car.
Rick is unable to attend this evening, but congratulations to Rick Lee on a successful 2021 Madera Mini Stock second place finish.
Johnny is actually vision impaired and doing a good job out there in this car.
We should be spotting for John right now. Why don't we hop on that and see if John's on this one? John Williams, if you're on channel 3, inside, you're looking. Let's roll the bottom a little bit better. Sweep that corner and roll the bottom. Keep that high horsepower car off you.
Lee and Johnny Williams on the front row, and the 68's trying to jump underneath them here, and they're banging wheels into turn 1, Andy. We got it on camera.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Everybody, all the fans that have come out, really appreciate their support. Just like to thank my dad, my girlfriend, Kim, and Pacific Metal Fab, everybody that's helped me out. Put race wheels on it and put a roll cage in it, and it's a race car now.
Hey, great job tonight, Johnny Williams, from way down here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage your 2021 Madera Mini Stock champion, John Williams. Well, welcome, John Williams. I saw you needed a tissue over there watching that, didn't you?
Yes, I do.
didn't tell on you. He was kind of struggling already. But. Well, welcome, John. It's good to have you on our show tonight. Let's see,
good to be on. Glad everybody else is out there watching.
Yeah, we've got a few people out there watching. John Williams, 2021 mini stock champion from last year. We've got people, John, they're tuned in from Massachusetts, from back east, all over. Carol Hoover. I could tell you that's somebody I need to have on this show as well. Carol Hoover and I were next door neighbors when we were like kindergartners. And I could be wrong, but I think I'm right, Carol. I think your mom worked out at the Oski Speedway. And for some reason, I think that my uncles, of course, they were all into cars. My dad was totally into drag racing. And I would hang out there, and I would go out there and have a blast. And anyway, Carol and I love the race cars, and boy, it was a deep addiction, the greatest one in life that stuck with us forever. So, Carol, it's good to see you on there. Carol's real big on hobby stocks and grassroots racers, a lot like I am, and so it's pretty cool. We thought we'd start the first show off this year with John Williams with us, last year's mini stock champion, and we'll do a deep dive on getting everyone to know a little bit more about you, John. But before we do that, again, I want to remind everyone there's a poll, and it's the first time we did it. It's question of the day, so it might be messing up your screen. I apologize if it is. But, in fact, I'm going to look at that on the phone, see if it is, because it's across mine. But we're doing a poll to see if the fans like the new Cup car or if they don't like the new Cup car. So I'm kind of interested in that to get everyone's opinion of what you guys think about the Cup car. I'm just taking a second. I'm going to look at this real quick. because I want to see. I'm doing something a little different. I was trying to do a Facebook poll, and I wanted to see if it's blocking. No, it doesn't look like it's blocking the screen to me. Okay. All right. So before we get into John's story from end to end here, John, I kind of wanted your take on the first two races. You know, a mini stock driver, real grassroots guy. You're the kind of guy that'll go out like so many people learn to do. Bubble gum a car together, baling wire together. I've seen you dig parts out of the trash cans in the pits, and it ends up on your little mini stock flying around out there. So, just total grassroots guy. So before we do that, let's recap a little bit. Let's start with the March 5th race. The first MAV TV show. I want to get your take on that. What were your thoughts on that night?
It was a good night of racing. I mean, that we fought rain and overcame the rain. It was a great night of racing with, the pros, the juniors. I mean, everybody kind of behaved themselves until the white flag in the pro race.
Yeah, and to your point there, to me it really seemed like junior-wise, you've heard me 1,000 times. I'm always concerned the first three races with the juniors, and I don't want to jinx this weekend, but it was amazing how well they raced and how clean they raced.
Very good.
Pros were it was a good race, but like you say, I think we got about 22 of the 26 to the white flag, or 23 of them. I think about 7 of them made it back from the white flag, so you never want to see that. But speaking of pros, I see a nut-up flag in the background. That's one of our flags, like we flew in the flagpole for several years, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so kind of.
That is actually the one off of our flagpole.
Is it? Wow. I keep looking over here because I don't have my teleprompter up, but so I've got you over here, so if you see my eyes a little bit off, that's what I'm not as cross-eyed as I look. But yeah, the nut up. So that's the flag that flew on our flagpole for all of those TV races. Nut up was the sponsor, wonderful sponsor, and so we're pretty sentimental. So it's cool to see that behind John. So so that's opening night really good. I think we're going to see some really good racing. This weekend. The MAV TV televised event, we're taping it for MAV TV. We are not live streaming, unfortunately, at this point. It looks like we'll start our live streams again at the end of April, and that's due to some our media contracts. Basically, we're exclusive with 2 different media groups, and we were able to live stream during COVID when fans weren't allowed to be with us, and so we're trying to kind of remodel that so we can get some live streaming going again. It looks like we're going to be able to do that. So, the other thing I want to talk about was last weekend. Brian, I see Brian's on here. I talked to him, by the way. He's doing a lot better. But John Williams here jumped in at the last minute with me. He's our base announcer. Brian's also will announce it tonight. He's going to be working on the TV show, which will be pretty cool. So he's got a wonderful voice. Stephen Blakeslee and I are both saying we're both jealous. We've got terrible TV voices compared to the guys like Brian that has the right pipes. So we're jealous of that good voice. But John filled in for you, Brian, as you mentioned. Over here, John, Brian says, thanks for filling in for me last week. Well, John was a pretty good surprise. So, but not so much on the commentating side. I wanted to chat with you a little bit about what you thought about the racing last weekend, John. So let's start with the MSTs. We'll come from that end up. What was your thoughts on the MST race?
The MST race was very interesting. It was 4 cars, 2 veterans, and 2 rookies. And we had the idea, obviously, that the veterans were going to pull away, but it was a toss-up of which car was going to take out which car.
Well, and we kind of called that one. My take on it was Patrick Geiger's car looked tight, or he was driving in very aggressive from the entry to the apex, and so he would lose the front end, and that car pushed up. Gordon's car, right, his car rotated really well and was kind of exiting from the middle out, so you could just see this kind of figure 8 bad situation getting ready to happen, and we predicted it would, and unfortunately they're teammates too, so it was kind of interesting. You went down and did that interview. It was really interesting, but Geiger, they went to the back after that. Geiger was able to win, from a short car count. And so it kind of ended up working to his favor, but it was interesting. What was his comment? I forget exactly what it was. What was his comment to you in Victory Lane?
his partner was very upset with him, and you know, but when it comes to the W, you do anything you can to get the W. So he did what he had to.
Yeah, you probably couldn't, if you're one of his enemies on the racetrack, it'd be hard to be really mad if he'll turn his own teammate around, huh? So,
Yeah.
tough deal. But jump over to the super stocks, the former hobby stocks. What'd you think of that race?
That race was really good. I mean, right from the start, we figured that, it was going to be a runaway with Steve Shimmerhorn and Haley Bug, Donnie Large, Manny Gonzalez. I mean, they were all fast at the end of the year. Tyler Holden came in and was just fast right out of the box. He came out for a couple of practices and just kept getting better and better and better. But with who his dad is, Howard Holden, came out with, a good setup in the car already and just, did what they had to. But the way the race ended, it was just a little bit of impatience, with so many laps to go. But Haley Bug did a very, very, very good job for her first time in the hobby stock. Against Steve, it's two-time champion in that series. And then you had Manny Gonzalez, and then as many laps as you've had Bubba's done around the track, which is Donnie Large Jr. She stood her ground.
Yep,
and did a very good job of it.
Yeah, they did. It was very competitive, and that's a division with some of the emphasis on some of the new angles and the new style of car that we look at. I think that class can really grow as well. Kind of a super low budget, late model limited type thing. It looks like is where we're heading with that. Speaking of late models, what do you think about the Madera Late Model Club race?
That one, yeah, that was pretty good. With Jason Aguirre winning it, and the third place car being a car that they just, Jason put a front clip on his car. The car that finished third, they had just finished putting a rear clip on that car. It was amazing that they actually got those cars back together in a matter of 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then you had another element there that was Daryl Herzog. That was I was surprised even, I think, as you were. That was Daryl's first start in a late model. And Daryl's been really tough in the MSTs, which the MSTs, for those, we've got friends from back east, Carol Hoover, for example. An MST, it's a mini super Toyota. It's which you guys run a lot of dirt modifieds back there. It's a pavement modified, but probably an 80% scale, John, something like that. Scaled down version from a full modified, with a 4-cylinder Toyota engine in it. And it's a momentum car, so they've got to carry a lot of momentum through the corners. And what happens is it seems like every driver that comes out of the MSTs, they're just really fast through the corners and very successful race car drivers. So you have Daryl Herzog, second and third, right? Reynolds, he's an MST graduate as well. So they're really, really fast and super impressive. So Daryl was fast, John. And as we talked about there, if he decided to jump in the TV race, which I'm not sure, I didn't see him on the entry list, but I know they had some talk of it after that race. I wouldn't be surprised if he won the TV race this weekend. He was that good, or fast enough to run top 3 in it, certainly.
Yeah, for sure. That car, it's amazing that car was as fast as it was, because, that's a car like pretty much right out of the box. They just got that car in like November and put that thing together, and it's a brand new hot rod that, he's never driven a big car other than, the MST, which, like you said, is just a scaled down 4-cylinder car. He was very impressive with that car. I thought he had driven one, years ago and just was getting back, and he told me, nope, MST only, and this was his first ride, and he finished top, in the top two.
Yeah, and I kind of picked that
and
up when
then-
you were doing the interview. I picked up on that because even myself, when you're asking the question, I was thinking, I've been here 15 years at Madera, but I don't remember seeing Daryl in a late model. And you asked a perfect question, and nope, first time. But again, not surprised at all with the momentum of those MSTs, those drivers. For whatever reason, look at Haley Bugg, how fast she is right away. Good momentum.
Yeah.
Drivers are really good.
For sure. That's one of the things, with those, even the juniors coming up out of the quarter midgets and bandos, high momentum car, as long as you keep the momentum up in the corner, you're going to be speedy down the straightaway.
Yep, for sure.
And-
All right, let's shift gears real quick to this coming weekend, round 2. Who are you looking for in the juniors?
The
I know
juniors,
they're so good and they're so new, so it's always
my
hard
God.
to pick. Where
There's-
they advance so much, but who stood out to you in round number 1, and what are you looking for success in the way of round 2?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, the Charlie Wilson camp's been, pretty tough, with Pohemus and Brody Moore. Casey Klein's, been improving every time, with the new team that he's with. I mean, the one big surprise that I'm waiting for is Kenna Mitchell. She is so close to winning one.
Yeah, I think
And that would be it.
Jump in on that because I think Kenna Mitchell. I had a note preseason. We're always on the TV show and editing side. We have different picks and who's in what category, and the kids advance so fast. And Kenna was so quick at the end of last year. I think she's a major championship contender this year. Would be my opinion. Really, really solid.
Yes.
So we had. I'll just run down the list off the entry. Just a few names right here. Vito's brand new. He's a youngster. He's one of those that's going to advance quickly. And these kids in one night can learn like we adults do in a season. So it'll be interesting to see them come forward. Brody Moore won race number 1. Last year, third in the Triple Turkey Open that Hornaday was out for. So the kid was just super impressive. He's definitely a championship contender. But here's a name I'm going to put out there. Had a rough night round 1, but I think is a major championship contender and has not won a race yet. Ethan Nascimento.
Oh yeah, he's hungry. He wants to eat, and he's hungry for a win.
Yeah,
and that team is very, very capable of it. So
yeah, I was going to say he was really tough in the adult side of the short track shootout, if you remember, when he was running third a lot of that. So and then you have Jeffrey Erickson. He's another youngster that will come into his own so fast, momentum driver. So like we talked about the MSTs coming from the bandos. I think Jeffrey is a driver that will advance rapidly and could be ready. So we've already got Brody Moore, Ethan Nascimento, Jeffrey Erickson. Those are victory lane drivers ready pretty much right now. We've got Haley Lyles, which has improved so much last year. A very fast John Keller race car.
That's another young lady that's learned a lot in the years with, John Keller coaching with. Actually, Kyle's been doing a lot of the driver coaching with her and getting her up to speed. And that's going to be another one that's going to surprise the pants off of everybody when she wins.
Yep. So let's all run through it very quickly here. You've got Monty Tipton that's also in that same camp, Keller camp. Monty looks really fast. Rebecca Doobie's improving all the time. Joey and Robbie Keneally, 2 Keneallys in the juniors. And you take Robbie that won the finale last year, major championship contender. How about Lane Anderson? You talk about impressive in race number 1. That's a championship contender. Kenna Mitchell, as we talked about. Caden Cordova, so fast in everything that young man drives. He is up on the wheel already in his junior. And then you talked about Casey Klein. I'm going to jump over real quick because I want to get to your side here, your story. On the pro side, there's 24 on the entry list. I'm just going to run a handful of names here. Jaden Walbridge, last year's champion, obviously a championship contender, if not one of the top favorites. Kersey Young. Kersey knocked on the door of wins in the juniors. Kersey very, very fast. I'm going to scan through here real quick. Jason Aguirre just won last weekend. Potential winner. Ethan Nascimento also, he's running juniors and pros. Potential winner. Bubba Nascimento, obviously already a winner. Howard Holden, Sheldon Cooper. Really impressive how much they improved. In fact, I had Howard kind of as my outside pick for the short track shootout last year. I had that much confidence in how fast he was. Bradley Erickson. He's really got his program together right now. I think Bradley's a potential winner. Cassidy Hines coming in this weekend, with the Mike Nink camp. See what she can do. Kyle Keller, that's already a winner. I'm going to scan through the list here. Jacob Smith coming up from the juniors, winner there. Brody Armtrout, last year's champion, another graduate. Barrett Polhemus, another junior graduate. Olivia Mankey, she's improving a lot. Mitch Klein's actually on the entry list. And there was a bunch of other names that I went past, but we have, for this weekend, we've also got Sean Reynolds, Ryan Reynolds, Glenn Cook. Let's go up through here real quick. Pete Soto, Aiden Daniels, Rick Thompson, Jay Juleson. Boy, Jay, Mr. Endurance, he'll come. He always passes the most cars, seems like every time. So it'll be pretty interesting this weekend. I think it's going to be a rock-solid weekend and a lot of really good drivers out there. Hey, Rick Lee's joined us as well. See, let's do a check over here. Dale
Good to
Babbitt.
see you pop on there, Rick.
Yeah, Dale Babbitt's got a new boy. Rod's on both sides. Rod Carsey's over here on this side too. Rod says, "Hello, John. Good to see you on the screen. Good luck to you this season." John's actually just working. He's coaching and helping people. Rod, he sold his car. John had surgery on his hand and had a little setback and some other stuff. So he's been doing pretty good, helping us and helping others. We really want this class to grow. Let's jump back since I've got you on as the mini stalker. Let's talk a little bit about Dan Myrick. John, Dan's helping everyone out there. He's sponsoring the class. We're trying to get this to grow, and as Dan told you and I up in the announcer's booth, he just needs more hands. He needs more of him. There's a lot of people who want these race cars. Dan does so much, and to let the fans know, Carol, if you're still with us, this is old school. The mini stocks ran Madera. We did an afternoon show, started main events at 4:30. As soon as they were done, first main event, they packed up, went north about 35 miles or so, and went dirt track racing at the Merced Speedway. So it was pretty cool. So, John, give me, you know those guys, you know the cars, kind of give me your retake of especially the front runners there, and Nick in particular. It sounds like he was pretty quick up at Merced, too.
Yeah, he's been getting really fast. But Dan Myrick, he's actually the guy that his dad did the cage in my car to get me out there. And yeah, he helps out pretty much everybody. I mean, if you stay on his good side, he is definitely one that you want to help you, because I mean, he's fast on asphalt, he's fast out on the dirt. I mean, yes, I've been fortunate to win a couple of races against him, but his Acuras are fast. And Nick Thompson was driving one of his cars this last weekend and was blazing fast with that thing.
And it was amazing, wasn't it?
From what yeah, it was. And then, like you said, after the main event at our track, they packed up, went 35 miles north and unloaded them things at the dirt track, and he finished in the top 2 up there. So, I mean, but like we all know, a good dirt tracker is always a very good asphalt driver. And that's where Dan and all those guys come from. So they did it right, starting out on the dirt.
Yeah, we appreciate that heart and soul. I've seen, I think even Carol, I saw something posted, I think it was on his Facebook page, I saw it talking about that guy that runs mid-pack and that guy that's always in the pits. We've seen that post going around, and just the passion. And Dan's that type of guy that will help anyone and everyone to grow the class. So we appreciate people like that. It's really what the sport's all about. Okay, speaking of that segue, let's jump over. It's time to let people know your story, John, to get to know a little bit more about you and why in the world you would hang out at a racetrack, why would you spend endless hours working for a donut and a energy drink every now and then, and you just volunteer so much time like so many people that keep these short tracks going all over the country. So let's get folks to know a little bit about you. First of all, why don't you Why don't you let everybody know where you grew up at? Where were you born, and where'd you spend that first 5 years of your life at?
I was born in El Paso, Texas. My dad was in the military. And once he got out of the military, soon after I was born, we were in the San Jose area. By the time I was 4, my parents separated. I went and stayed with my aunt and uncle. Grew up around, his older brother that builds race car motors. And, my dad started racing when I was 5, taking me to the racetrack. I learned how to do, anything and everything on a go-kart by the time I was 10. Started hanging out with my uncle at his shop, helping him build motors, handing him parts, cleaning parts, and that's pretty much how I got introduced to racing. Really got introduced big time to it in, the early 80s. My uncle was building Jim Pettit II's motors at Watsonville. So we was going to Watsonville every weekend.
So 1980, you say? Somewhere there are 80s. Give me about a year there.
80, 81, somewhere's in there.
80, 81. Okay. I ran 1980.
I want to say.
Go ahead.
I want to say that Jim Pettit started in 81, I believe.
Hobby stocks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I ran Hobby Stocks 84, Merced, Watsonville, and then in 85 I switched to late models, and I believe that was I could be wrong, but I think Pettit switched also in 85. There was Jeff Silva.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, a bunch of them, 85. There was so much. It was amazing. Wasn't there? Ray Morgan, McCowan, Ed Sands, all those guys. That was an amazing time. Bobby Hogue, all those guys. It was hammered down. It was like the Southwest Tour, but on dirt, really, that whole tour.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was, I want to say, yeah, it was definitely 85 because that's when Jimmy switched from the rounded Camaro to the more aerodynamic square looking one.
Yeah, you had that blue and yellow number 6. There was actually a really big race I won in my Coca-Cola car there in 1985. Maybe it was 86. I think it was 86. You probably cheered against me because it was at the very end. It was Pettit and I hammered down on the front row going for it. It was a big 100-lapper, and I won. And I remember winning that thing. King Clapp came down, wanted to make sure I was even 16 years old. Even though I was like 20 or something, 21. I looked like I was about 12 years old. So you probably cheered against me if you're a Pettit fan back then. Pettit and I, we weren't the greatest of friends, but on the track. But years later, we become super close, and he's someone that it was a lot of fun. Really appreciate seeing him go in the Hall of Fame last year. So, all right, so back to you. So that's Watsonville, mid-'80s. Where'd you live at that time? Where you mentioned like engine building and all that. Was that still going on at that time?
Yeah. My uncle built his motors probably till like the mid '90s or so. Once he jumped up into like the Southwest Tour and stuff, my uncle wasn't messing with those dry sump motors. But I grew up in the Monterey area. That's where I went to elementary and, all the way through high school. Went to Monterey High. Grew up out on the coast my whole life and just racing at Watsonville, going, go-kart racing all over, up and down the state of California with my dad doing, sprint races, which is like road racing, and then doing some dirt track stuff also. And he was dirt track champion in a go-kart in 77 and 78. So, I had to add a championship to the family.
There you go. Did you do much? Did you get to do much driving go-kart wise when you were younger, or mostly just crewing?
No, just crewing because my grandparents had custody of me, and pretty much if my dad put me behind the wheel of a go-kart, he was never going to see me again.
Huh. Okay.
So, yeah, they did a little tough love with him.
Okay. I want to break
So,
in on our interview here. Raymond Caraway's on here. Cam Caraway Racing is micro sprint this weekend, but we will be back at Madera in May. We were pretty impressed with that young man, weren't we, John? Had a lot of fun with that run CMC that we kind of renamed his new nickname's Money, huh?
yes, sir.
Yeah, that kid
Hey,
was talented.
it's good going to the dirt. That's where you learn how to go fast, loose.
Well, and I think that's, someone over here on Facebook, Dale's talking about Kyle Larson's classic example of dirt to asphalt superstar. We've seen so many of the kids that come up through this hot micro scene. I mean, we went down, you spent some time with me. We go out scouting at these tracks. We were down at Lemoore last year, and there is such a pool of talented drivers. And you take, with Cameron Caraway, it is not it is surprising how young he is and how fast he is, but yet it's not surprising because they come from dirt and that hammer down deal. So you kind of got the Kyle Larson's the model, and these kids, Kyle Larson better win a whole lot of races before these kids get up to him because they're going to give him a headache too.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, a lot of the guys that come from that world. I mean, we've had everybody from like Dylan Tucker to Barrett Pohemus to this Cameron Caraway, and I mean, they just come out like right out of the box fast. I mean, they are not scared to go fast.
Nope,
and that's
that
one of the good things
sideways
about those. Yeah, it's like, hey, let's go fast. It's like the looser the better. So,
yep. All right,
those boys.
Let's get back on your side. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I had a little echo on my headset.
You're good.
But so you're at what time? I know you spent some time in just listening to you and talking, and kind of seemed like your affection for the four-cylinder classes really developed up in Washington. It sounded like you crewed on a car up there. Tell me, when did you move to Washington, and then tell me a little bit about those four-cylinder cars that you crewed on, and is that how your energy towards mini stock racing developed?
Yes, I had a bad drug problem, and I took care of it by moving out of state up to the state of Washington. Been clean ever since, and figured, hey, get rid of, one speed, let's go to another, and ended up working at a go-kart place, indoor like MB2, but gas powered. Met up with this kid that kept coming in. We had a racing series that you do, once a week, and he won a couple of championships doing the indoor go-karts, and his mom was like, hey, what's next? And I turned him into, onto a racing school up at the Madera Speedway up in Monroe. And then she's like, okay, he wants to do it. What's next? So I jumped on the website for the racetrack and started searching for a car. And we ended up buying a 83 Volkswagen GTI that the person that we bought the car from said that if you race this thing in the rain, you will definitely total the car. And it just happened that the very first night that we went out to the racetrack, it gave us everything: sun, snow, rain, sleet, hail. It threw everything in the bucket at us all at one time. And our dummy butts forgot the singing windshield wiper in a crate at home. And so we had no windshield wiper, but we did have Rain-X. And he started at the back of the field, and we brought the car home in one piece. I mean, he spun it a couple of times. Somebody slid into him and bent their car, but ours went on the trailer with all four fenders and wheels on it.
So you've been crewing and wrenching on cars for pretty much your entire life, right? From the go-kart time
Yes.
to this point. Okay, what years?
Yes.
Give me kind of a year. Give me a timeline when this took place with that Volkswagen.
2006 to 2005 was about when I started with helping the kid out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved back to California. We did it for till 2007. I came back to California in 2008. I was still in contact with.
Oh, pardon me. I was going to say, let's finish what you're saying there, and then I got a question for you. I want to insert because I don't want to get ahead in the California side. But so you're still in contact with that young man from Washington when you moved back here?
I was still in contact with the young man in Washington, and still helping him out with setups and different things, via telephone. And he ended up selling the Volkswagen. We got a 1993 Honda Prelude that was a championship winning car. We bought a recycled motor from the Japan recyclers for like $500. Never thought the dang thing would run fast enough to keep up with some of those $6,000-7,000 fire breathers, but he finished second one night, and it was like just amazing that we had such a setup in the car that it would roll through the corner a whole lot better than some of those high horsepower cars, as we have that problem with some of the big motor late models.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me jump in because I want to kind of stay on a couple of thoughts I've got here. So you were saying that's in the 2000s. So there's quite a span there, 90s and whatnot. Tell me, you touched on, since you mentioned it, I'll go ahead and I think it's important. Very much like Carlos Vieira's story in racing, very inspirational. So you had a drug problem. How many years was that as far as the drugs? So you're involved in drugs in the California scene. How long was that period of your life?
It was probably like 10 years, but I did from 89 to 98 I did BMX racing, and in 97 98 I did win the California State Championship on my 20-inch. But the drug problem started about 96 or 7, was kind of just lost in where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And just lost myself a little bit. But 2003, it was like, hey, it's time to wake up. The drug scene is definitely nowhere that anybody wants to be, because it's definitely the devil.
Yeah, and Carlos, and very similar to your story, I've always felt like there's a connection between you and Carlos because of that. And where Carlos will say, racing pretty much saved his life. It just completely replaced that drug scene, and it was the thing that just was the fit perfectly in his life. And it seems like racing is so important to you. Kind of in that same window too. So okay, let's jump. So how did you end up from Washington to Madera, and kind of give me the time frame on that?
I came back to California. It was basically I was married back then, and the wife was out here in California. The ex-wife was out here in California, and basically, said, hey, we're coming back. So it was like, okay. So I came back, and it took me a few years, of just listening to the Madera Speedway. I moved, to Madera in 2008. I reached out, a couple of times to a few people and never had any luck. I went to the races one night and heard that there was a couple of people in the Toyota sedan class, which, was kind of crazy that I'm into the Datsun 510, which is basically like the same kind of car. So I was really familiar with, the Toyota sedan, suspension and different things. And I liked that class. It was really fun to sit there and watch like 25 of those things really rip around the track. So at the end, there was an announcement that there was a husband and wife that was racing in the class from Madera. And I ended up hitting Dell McIntosh and Candy McIntosh, hit them up and said, hey, I'm bored sitting at home. I'm into racing, and I'd like to come racing with you guys. And did you guys need some help? And Dell got back to me and said, hey, come out to the races Saturday. After the races, come out to the pits and check us out. And I did that and had been with them from the middle of 2012 all the way through 13. Started helping them build a late model, and got kind of recruited to the Madera Speedway.
I ruined your pit crew time. So now you've been just like so many people, as we all know. I mean, everyone in the short track world, it's all heart, soul, passion, just total, like your story, just a complete lifelong love for the most part of racing. Somehow it gets into that blood and you just can't get it out of the veins. So people like you make the sport go around. I think that's what's so important, to have a variety of different people on the show. So let's I want to talk about something else, because you've been helping us for a long time. I know you really well. You are really, really good at improvising, overcoming. So let's talk about a lot of people in here probably won't know it. A lot of people know, real close, you're legally blind, right?
Yes.
So tell people about the disease you have, exactly what it is, and little by little, you really know how to overcome some challenges. So you won a championship last year in the Madera Mini Stocks while you're legally blind. So tell people what you're dealing with there.
It's called retinitis pigmentosa. It's basically deteriorating retinas. So I have blind spots. I have no peripheral vision. I can't see, basically my hand's right here in front of me. I can't see that. Like I can see distance, really, really well. I can see, out the windshield. I could see all the cars in front of me. It's just nighttime is really, really tough. Because being that the retinas are deteriorating, they don't soak in the sunlight. So like everybody has, night vision. I absolutely do not. I do use a cane, for nighttime stuff. Mostly I use a flashlight, when I'm at the racetrack. So not many people know. And, it's almost like a photographic memory of, when I walk around places. It's just insane. It amazes me on how I don't walk into things, or I know where certain things are just by senses.
Well, and I would say, too, to that, I know your night vision, you really struggle, and it's amazing. You're one of the key guys when, 2:33 in the morning, when everyone else is gone and there's 5 of us left on the property, you're always right there with us. And I know at nighttime you really, really struggle. In fact, I ran into several people that didn't know anything about your condition, and you'd run into them or bump into them at night, and they'd whisper, hey, is that guy, does he drink too much, or what's he do? No. So I'd tell them a little bit about your story. So with, let's tie this all together. So you're a youngster, you're crewing on go-karts. You don't get to race at that point. You go up and crew on some cars in Washington after you fought off the demon of the drug addiction and fought that beast off, completely recovered from that. Now you're dealing with this situation where you're legally blind and it's deteriorating, and you finally get to race last year after piecemealing this car together that, by the way, it was a car that we had from a stunt show, from a monster truck stunt show, and it just happened to survive. A little Ford Focus John had. And it was, what was it called, the Wall of Death or something? And we put these big Cadillacs up, and this car went down and hit them and knocked them all over, and it smashed a bunch of this little Focus in. And we're hauling all the cars off the property after this big show, and John says, hey, that one doesn't look too bad. And the car survived. John turned it into a race car and won a championship. So you come from being a kid, crewing on go-karts. You don't get to race at that point. You crew on other cars. You fight off drug addiction. Now you're fighting this blindness situation, and you finally win a championship. Is that why a lot of, we saw so much emotions coming from you every interview. It was hard to not have a box of my old sponsor's Kleenex right beside you, even doing an interview with you, but you were so emotional. Same with the banquet. Is that where all that emotion comes from? Just like this victory that I did this?
Yep. that is definitely, I mean, I've wanted to do this stuff since I was 5 years old, you know, like a junior late model driver. I mean, if I mean, I know if I was given the chance to drive even a hobby stock back in the day, I mean, I had a guy that definitely knew how to build motors, and I definitely had a guy on my side, you know, with Jim Pettit, you know, that could definitely teach me to you know, the ropes around Watsonville. But um, I just never got the opportunity, you know, nobody. I mean, and I never took the initiative to, you know, like take one of Jim Pettit's old beat up cars back then and do anything with it. So I just had fun working on race cars.
And I can relate to the. I think that's something you and I have a lot in common. I was a kid racing and wanted go karts. Family couldn't afford them. We lived back in the Midwest. Carol Hoover, that was on here earlier, we built go karts out of these wooden things and nailed with nails. We would put the lawnmower tires on them, and you'd put a bolt through the front with a rope, you know, and run them down a hill. That was the extent of kind of our go kart racing. And like you, my parents split up, and it was kind of a mess through the teenage years at times. And so I built my first hobby stock when I was 14. All I could think about from the time I was a 5-year-old was racing. But I had to sell that one. And then I built my second hobby stock, and I blew up the engine of my street car. It was the only way I'd get back and forth to the gas station work in high school, so I had to sell that one. I actually didn't start racing until I was 19, John. And I always felt like I was so far behind others. And a lot of my passion for working with the kids is, you know, fulfilling those dreams, keeping them on the right path. And so I think you and I have a lot in common between kind of fighting and scratching and clawing to go racing, keeping others on the same path and away from the kind of the demons of life. I know you've got a big heart and talked a lot about that. But so it was so fun to watch you last year win that championship. I could tell from being around you how much it meant. The other element to this too, and people that don't have the addiction of racing, that's probably I don't know, I shouldn't say this, but maybe some other addictions are easier at times, huh? Right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the expense and going racing and all that. But I'm just joking with that. Don't blast me in the comments.
No.
So one thought that I have with the racing side of it and the passion and just the family of racing and how it gets in your blood and you love it so much, it just comes bursting out of people. And that probably comes out of you more than anyone. And the point that I was going to make was, and I saw this with your race car, the look of a race car when you finally get to build that first car. My first car I raced was out of 2 crashed 69 Novas that I begged one for $50. The guy was going to throw away. The other one was in a wrecking yard. It was given to me. I cut the 2 cars in half, welded them together. In my grandmother's driveway, we had a swing set I borrowed from the neighbor that I built this tarp out of wood, and that was my shop. And I welded those 2 cars together, and I ironically, my first one was 93. I saw when you were putting the 97 on your car, and it wasn't even completely painted, you'd stand back and look at that car. And I could just see that that's probably, you know, that was your hobby. That was your thoughts when you're laying there in bed before you go to sleep at night. What's my car going to look like? And just the pride of actually finally having a stock car to go drive. What did it mean to you to build that first race car and get to race in it?
It meant everything. I mean, I saw it in the infield. You said get the cars ready for, you know, pick and pull to come and get them. And I saw that the key was still in that Focus, and it started right up. And, you know, let the story be started right there. You know, I mean, it looked like a New York City train car all graffitied up. And, you know,
front end smashed up, wiped out, and guys that are on here watching, I gave John a hard time because we're getting them ready for the Smasher. What's that one still doing here? Get that one out of here, John. Come on, we got to get this place cleaned up. We got to race. And I kind of saw that look in your eyes. Hey, can I have that one? Sure. So John turned it into a race car. Save that one from the Smasher.
and you know, the funny story about that car is there was nothing repaired on that car from the smash up. The hood's still bent. The fenders are still bent. The grill got busted out. The bumper had cracks in it. Hey, it's, you know, it's a race car. It's going to get beat up anyway. So
Yep.
Being my first race car, I didn't want to put new parts, so hey, let's see how it goes right now, so
yeah, and it wasn't very fast when you first started, was it? It wasn't real quick, but it was amazing. You're overworking everybody in the pits for technology as much as anything, so it didn't matter if it was a Mike Nank or Dan Myrick or whoever. You're trying to get information. Next thing, you may have a white cane out the right-hand side, me on the radio. To be honest, too, guys, we'd do the TV show, would do the announcing, and anytime I get a chance to spot and coach him a little bit, it was a lot of fun. It was like driving. You were so responsive. It's like driving a remote control car, our little RC cars. But I had you in the wheel. It was really good. So that first heat race, remember that? How fun that was? On the inside, that was cool.
That was one of the biggest accomplishments right there, because me knowing that Dan was so fast in his car, Dan Myrick being, he was so fast in his car, and I paid attention to the heat race that went before us, and the guy started in the same position I did and rolled the top and ended up winning it. And you jumped on the radio before I went on the track and said, "Hey, you see that race?" "Yes, I did, sir." You're like, "Hey, we're going to do the same thing. Roll the top and roll that sucker with momentum, and we're going to get that hot rod."
Yeah, it was funny. You got it. I was surprised you did it, and you trusted me that much. So, and I between me and you now, I'll be honest, I was hoping that thing would stick as hard as you drove it in that first one. I told you it would, but that was kind of cool.
I was hoping so too, but I mean, with Dan and all the guys, it's like they're so amazing. It's like, I mean, they all know that I have the vision problem. That they were all kind of, like, what the heck? This dude is kicking our butts in a car that is totally stock, still had the full dash in it, CD player. I mean, air conditioner was still in it. I would run the air conditioner at sometimes when I needed a little bit of traction control coming off the corner.
Yep. All right, let's get that's the John Williams story, everyone. So, and again, the goal here is to get everyone to know just the folks behind. We may have fans on here at some time. We could have a Ron Hornaday on here. We could have our junior late model stars that you saw so much on here last year. You'll see a bunch of that. We'll have different crew members from the track, different staff like John working, and just telling people stories. I think that's what we need to do. Grassroots racing is made up of people that just have a deep affection and love for the sport, and we go round and round, or if it's drag racing, you go in a straight line because of all those people that volunteer and put all the energy into it. The people that volunteer on race cars, it's really important to make sure we're telling those stories. So that's why we wanted to have John on here tonight. So John, it's I'm gonna scan through a couple questions, make sure no one has a question or a comment, and then go ahead, John, while I'm reading here.
Well, basically, I was going, that championship last year could not have been done without, all the people that helped me, which I'm going to go through my list here,
Get them right.
Boss don't like that one, that I got so many.
Got to memorize them, but you're good. Don't miss any of them. I'm reading some cool questions here anyway. So I hope you've got tissue ready here.
Pacific Metal Fab in Madera. Madera Car Connection is where the car came from. Authority Heating and Air. Quality Furniture Installation. Madera Glass and Auto Body. Stucco Accents. Setting the Stage. Row Environmental. Stark Naked Graphics that did my numbers. Steve Schermerhorn. George's Auto Supply. RBR Motorsports. Economy Heating and Air. And definitely could not have done it without my dad or my awesome girlfriend, Kim. And thank y'all for tuning in. It was a fun year of racing.
Yep, one that checks that list off, and probably, again, I wanted everyone to hear your story and why that year was so important to you. It was so much fun to watch you, and knowing when we get out of those race cars and how fired up we are, and to see you go through that experience after a lifetime of wanting to do it. Congratulations. It was a lot of fun last year. Let's jump over here. We've got, let's see, Rick Lee, your nemesis, your rival from last year, huh? You guys give each other a hard time. Talk about good friends.
Good evening, Rick.
Yeah, he hopes to make a few races this year. Jacob Smith tuned in. Jim Dale. That car sat in the boneyard south in the grandstands for how long? Quite a long time. Carol
5
Hoover,
years.
Yeah, long time. Carol Hoover says, wish we had some photos of those wooden go-karts. The other thing we used to do, we'd go to Eddyville Drag Strip at times, and we would, boy, my mom and dad, right when it's early 70s, talk about old guys, would take these glad bags when they first came out and would take twine off of the hay bales, so the hay bales would pop out, and on the back seat of our bicycles would act like we're dragsters going down the driveway. So you'd roll that, you'd tie the hay bale or the hay twine onto your parachute, glad bags when they first came out, and you'd pick up and you'd hide that thing under your butt. You just tuck it in there and you go racing down, and then you'd lift forward and act like the parachute slow you down, all that. So Carol and I, if we only had the pictures of all those wonderful days, but in your mind, you're Dom Perdome. In those go-karts, in your mind, you're the there was a car, let me think of his name. He lived in Beacon, on Beacon Road, Carol. Irv, I think it was Irv Phillips. He ran Fords, and they ran a lot of this late 60s, early 70s, through the mid-70s. But my uncle worked on that car, so you're out there in your go-kart pretending that's who you are and all those cool things. So lots of fun.
Hey, what was your seat on? What was your seat made out of? We cut a milk crate and bolted it to the plywood for a
on
seat.
The go-kart. Yeah, ours, we tried to stay pretty low because we were crazy. I mean, we go to the top of these big hills back there in this southeastern Iowa, biggest hill we could find. And I mean, you're on this wooden thing with nails hanging and tires jumping off, probably doing 40 miles an hour on this thing. But so we tried to stay as low as we could. The tough thing was when your steering got loose.
Sure.
You got the piece of twine, your stick on the front. The steering was just a piece of wood, 2x4. It was crazy. So, all right, let me go back to these questions real quick here. Go ahead, Tom.
You pull the knot through the hole. You pull the rope
that knot
with
as big
the knot
as you could,
through the
right?
hole and went, oh, crap. There went the power steering.
Okay, so that was on the Facebook side. I'm going to very quickly, before we sign off here, we're about finished, I want to jump over on the Short Track TV side. We had the real Dragon Master, Seto, gave us a super chat and donated a little money to the program, which that all goes back into the race program, anything on the super chat on that site, so we appreciate that very much. Underneath, though, now
very much appreciated.
Yeah, on the bottom of it's kind of cool. It's like a little ticker across there. It says Boo Harvick, the Karen of NASCAR, under her deal. Boo Harvick, the Karen of NASCAR. Now, I have to confess, I'm friends with Kevin. So, and Kevin's kind of the senior guy, good buddies, and enjoy all those guys. He and Kurt Busch and old school guys from the West Coast, super cool. There's quite a few other comments. John always worked his butt off at the track. You could find it everywhere. That's true. Congratulations. Dale Babbitt tells you congratulations on your drug victory. I agree. 2 victories, championship, finally got to race.
Thank you, sir.
And then you whipped that drug deal and are a wonderful example to others. And great person there. Al Kennedy. It's an important question here. Let me jump off topic here a little bit. Al says, when is the TV show I haven't seen? And what is the gas price up there in town, $5.49 down here in the desert? TV show first. The TV show still airs every Monday night. We've got new shows. I think we have 2 more to go in last year's run. And then the first Monday night of June, 7 o'clock East Coast time, our MAV TV shows begin to air. And that will take place this season. What we filmed on March 5th, the pro race, Lunker Daddy Pros, will air on the first Monday in June. And then the second Monday in June will be a rerun. Then every 2 weeks, a brand new one. Then it'll be the juniors, week off, rerun, and then back to the pros, so on and so forth. We've got a lot of other racing, too. The Olga's California Dream 100. Speaking of many stocks that John and the boys, Dan Myrick and all them, that's a big event on MAV TV. It looks like we have a very large car count there. We've got a modified race with the North State Modifieds that'll come in. Mission Foods is helping us out. Put that on MAV TV. And then we have what was the Triple Turkey Open. It will be the Pumpkin Cup. So you'll get to see on MAV TV late model racing. That's the show that Ron Hornaday, my buddy there, brought out Landon Lewis and competed in. We'll show the enduro racing with some late model racing, a little bit of a variety show in that one. So that'll give you a little information, Al, on the MAV TV show. And if you tuned in late, we're not able to live stream right now. We're working on an agreement. We're hoping by the end of April, it looks like we'll be live streaming again. We have media contracts, a couple of different contracts, and we're working through that, but we're coming up with a way to do that. As far as fuel prices, it's just stupid out here in California. We're look like saying about $5.50, same as you guys are. Diesel's what's really hard, so it's really hard on these teams. Hoosier tire prices went through the roof. The tire prices for the first time are not locked in. Normally we can do a 2 or 3 year contract and lock prices in for an increase. The scary thing to me is we have no protection of that. So how expensive these race tires get on the race teams. Just crazy times in the country. But I'll save that for the political show, right, John? John's heard a lot of the phone calls when he's riding with me and different people, politicians calling people trying to get me in politics, but that's another show. So, okay, let's jump over one more time. Carol Hoover, he was from Beacon. His daughter and her husband come to my fire all the time. That is cool. I think I got it right. It was Irv Phillips. He ran Fords, and my Uncle Larry and Richard, but especially Larry, big Ford guy, as you remember. Dad was a big Chevy guy. You talk about rivalries in the family. And Grandpa was a Dodge guy. So, it was hard as a kid to take sides, but I made a lot of money driving Chevys, and I drive Fords now, so you can tell what an influence my Uncle Larry was on me. But, that was I remember that just from being a little kid and walking in the garage, and here's this, I was around drag racing a lot, so the cars looked like show cars, and this Irv Phillips, as I recall his name was, I went in the garage with them, and they're fixing this car. First thing I saw, John, were a few dents, and these big tires sticking out, fender wells that were cut out, and a lot of them ran convertibles back then. And I think it was a big block Ford actually in that one. But I don't know. I fell in love with oval track racing right there and was never the same, probably 5 years old. So, all right. So let's, we ran a little bit long. We were going to finish about 7 or 7:05. So, John, I appreciate your time very much. Appreciate you telling your story. And
thanks, sir. Thank you, everybody, for turning in.
Yeah. Well, Dale Babbitt, let's go racing. We appreciate that, Dale. So, John, there's another 10, 11, 12 bucks in the kitty. I think we'll take all those donations, just put them in the next mini stock race. Dan Myrick put up $800. It'll be spread out over the year.
A little heads up.
Yeah, that check that you walked in and handed us. You got another one for the team or for the cars too?
I actually I had a car donated to our mini stock program.
Wow. Okay.
So I'll be, talking to the guy here in the next week or so and see about getting that sucker out for, just whoever, one of our other guys wants to drive it, whatever.
Yep.
It's there.
Yeah, we've got Marty that we should probably talk about that. We'll feature Marty down the road. But our head of safety, Rod Carsey's replacement, is now racing at the Madera Speedway. So look at what Rick and John started here. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got a few people that want the addiction now too.
Yep, a lot of fun. That's the best one. So
it is.
All right, we'll
very much fun.
Again, this weekend is very, very big event for us this weekend. It is round number 2 of the 5150 Junior Late Model Series, round number 2 of the Lunker Daddy Pro Late Model Series. 80 laps of the Pro Late Model Racing, 70 laps of the Juniors. Pros will go 50 laps, 10-minute break, front straightaway, can change anything but tires, and then 30 laps to the finish, $2,000 to win. Then the 5150 Junior Late Models will go 40 laps, 10-minute break, then 30 laps. So if you guys are anywhere in the area, those races will, like I said, they'll begin to air on MAV this season in early June, starting there. So, all right, we appreciate everyone being with us very much. Al Kennedy, I'm sober from 1990. Alcohol, drugs, praise Jesus. Yep. I think it's important for you guys to tell these stories out. There's so much craziness in the world, so much addiction. Carlos Vieira is probably the bravest person that I know, and John and I have talked about this by writing the book that he did to get a chance, knocking doors down. Look that book up. You can get it on Amazon. It is a tell-all.
KDD, yep. What is it? KDD Media. .com.
I've got one.
You can get it there too.
Yeah, I was going to say I've got the ad for it. We use at the track, but I don't have it here. So
and just a quick thing too. A lot of people always saw that my number on my car was 97 and thought, "Oh, you're a Ron Hornaday fan."
Ronnie Gravel.
No, That was a Ronnie Gravel number from when they used to run asphalt at San Jose Speedway in their Sportsman's.
Yep.
And that's where I got that number from. And my dad carried it into those go-karts. And then I figured, heck, might as well be my first number.
Well, let me tell you something else. You know, Tom Barber, that you've met, my father-in-law, the Flying Dutchman,
Your father-in-law
big-time champion. He bought a car from Ronnie, and it was, I think they nicknamed like a Barber type car, not Barber like Tom Barber, like a Barber car, that's the way it was striped. And it had a car they bought from
They
Ronnie
called
Gravel,
it the Candy Striper.
Candy Stripe. Okay,
They
that's
called
what
it the
was.
Candy Striper.
Yep.
Because like when the volunteers at the hospital wear their red and white.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they got that one.
So you ran 97 in tribute to Ronnie Gravel. I ran 15 dirt racing in tribute to my father-in-law. So it doesn't get any cooler than that. Now we've got to pass this on.
Nope.
That we're doing. So this Saturday night, same thing with the kids. We're going to pass these traditions on. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. We appreciate it very much. John and I are going to sign off. I've got to pack a lot of gear down here tonight, tomorrow morning. John, hold your hand up real quick. Your surgery hand. Okay, looks better. John had surgery. We didn't have time to go into that, but we won't tell too much of the story there. Working on a race car injury, hand in the spring deal.
That's probably what started it. Yeah,
Okay.
When I was working on my mini stock, I was trying to change a little bit of the setup, and the spring came off of the strut tower and popped my hand in there, and thank God Marty was there.
The reason I brought that up, we don't have to go way into it, is we have to keep John from doing everything this weekend that John normally does. He's usually the one going and working hard and going at it. So, all right, John, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I will see you tomorrow down at the racetrack, trying to make sure you don't do anything. Take care of that hand and not working too hard. We appreciate you being with us tonight, all right?
Thank you, sir, and thank everybody for tuning in.
All right, John, good night. All right, fans, thank you guys so much. Again, as I mentioned, Madera Speedway, tomorrow night's practice, Saturday night, round 2 of the Lunker Daddy Pro Late Models. Still hard to say that, even though I own that company. I always want to say Nut Up Pro Late Models. We appreciate them so much, but that company doesn't exist anymore. And the 5150 Junior Late Model Series, the only sponsor that we have had in that series. So we appreciate you guys that come out, and look forward to showcasing all that new talent on MAV TV for you guys. And I personally want to thank John for everything that he does for the Speedway, and the Johns of all over this country, guys and gals that support grassroots racing. It's so important to have you guys in there. It's what makes the sport tick. Really appreciate John telling the stories. Very inspirational. I think it's really important, these success stories in a multitude of ways, and who's behind the scenes of the racetrack making it tick. To me, it's just really, really important. So, all right, thank you guys for being with us. We'll catch you this weekend. If not, I'll see you next week, right here, not next year, next week, right here again on Inside Draft. You guys have a great night.